Every year, billionaires turn up at Davos to discuss philanthropic solutions to the world's problems, but many of these solutions actually help them to increase their wealth. Let's learn about this hypocrisy and see if there's anything we can do to understand it better and even stop it.
The World Economic Forum ended last week. Historian Rutger Bregman made a claim that took many attendees by surprise. Let's listen.
I hear people talk in the language of participation and justice and equality and transparency. But then, almost no one raises the real issue of tax avoidance, right? And of the rich just not paying their fair share.
Just wait for a red bead to appear on his forehead. Shut up, you're ruining Davos.
10 years ago, the World Economic Forum asked the question, what must industry do to prevent a broad social backlash? The answer is very simple. Just stop talking about philanthropy.
Would you mind leaving immediately?
We can talk for a very long time about all these stupid philanthropy schemes. We can invite Bono once more, but come on, we gotta be talking about taxes.
They won't be having him back next year. All right, well, thanks for coming, mate. Next year at Davos, I think we'll have someone who plays by the rules a bit and sings from the same hymn sheet that comes in here and takes the piss out of you too.
The world has more than 2,000 billionaires. Many of them are being asked to give half of their fortunes to charity. The Giving Pledge was created by Bill Gates, his wife Melinda, and Warren Buffett.
A decade ago, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, and we're only mentioning them because they're famous billionaires. A lot of billionaires, they're faceless. I don't mean literally, although possibly they are. I mean in a sense that it's difficult to get a handle on them. But Buffett and Gates organised the Giving Pledge to inspire their fellow billionaires to donate money to charity. What it led to, a decade later, which is where we are now, the reality is that billionaire wealth has increased by 95%. They pledged, when they came up with the Giving Pledge, to give away half. Instead, their wealth has almost doubled. So the pledge was, give away half. The reality was, it's nearly doubled. What's gone on with this pledge? And how can you create a giving pledge that involves so much taking?
The US Treasury estimates philanthropy will cost it $740 billion in lost tax revenue over the next decade.
So how do they set up these kind of Philanthro-Capitalist funds? How does it work? How do you seem like you're giving when actually you're taking? Well, the fastest growing areas of the giving sector are private foundations and donor-advised funds. So watch out if you hear words like foundation or donor-advised funds. These are often these slippery backdoor channels for appearing like you're donating when actually you're taking or moving capital around in ways that tax can be avoided. There's over 1.2 trillion parked in private foundations and an estimated 120 billion in donor-advised funds. The super rich have created foundations at a rapid pace. From 2003 to 2015, the number of foundations grew by 28%. The amount of assets held in those foundations doubled over that period. Here's some of the rules around these esoteric and bureaucratic terms. DAFs, that's donor advised funds, which I'm going to be calling DAFs from now on. No, it's probably DAFs, isn't it? Donor advised funds have no mandated payout at all. The donor takes a generous tax break when placing funds in the DAF, but the DAF does not legally have to pay out ever. Donors can set up a DAF and pass it on to their grandchildren, who may or may not ever share the money with active charities. So, in a sense, it's like a promise, isn't it? It's just like saying, at some point, unspecified, I might give this money to charity. Meanwhile, there it is, safe in me old DAF. If you ain't a mad fan of the government, say, you might think, I don't want to pay tax either. I don't want to pay loads of half my money or 40% of my money or 30% of my money, whatever bracket you fall in, so it can be spent on bombing the Yemen or doing stuff that I'm not particularly into. But if you as a normal person try tax avoidance, you ain't getting nowhere. You're not going to be able to set up a DAF or a foundation and say, in the future, I might give this tax to someone. Meanwhile, I'm getting an extension done. You're not going to get away with it. This is another layer of hypocrisy and a further, augmentation, say, of the distinction between a billionaire class and the rest of us. The Chronicle of Philanthropy calls them a personal charitable savings account. The money, even when it comes in large amounts or mega gifts, doesn't always trickle down to grassroots organisations it's supposed to help. Whenever you hear the phrase trickle down, aren't you a bit concerned? It never trickles down, does it? What about trickle down economics? It'll trickle down, it'll trickle. Hold on a minute, where's it trickling off to? Oh no, it's gone into Bill Gates' pocket. Hey, I can't help it. It trickled there.
Today's super wealthy are richer than ever. and they're giving away their billions like never before.
Let's drill down on some specific billionaires. We're not saying these billionaires are worse than anyone else. Don't want to bully billionaires, all right? Billionaire bullying is at our all-time high.
Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg promising to give away 99% of his shares of the company to charity.
In 2015, him and his missus, Priscilla Chan, wrote and published a letter to their new baby, Max. The letter made a commitment that over the course of their lives, they would donate 99% of their shares in Facebook, at the time valued at $45 billion, to the mission of advancing human potential and promoting equality. Firstly, what are you writing a letter to a baby for anyway about tax?
They wrote in an open letter on Facebook that they were creating the Chan-Zuckerberg Initiative.
The wording of Zuckerberg's 2015 letter could have been interpreted as meaning he was intended to donate $45 billion to charity. But as the reporter Jesse Eisinger, whose name's too close to the geezer who played him in Social Network, reported at the time, the Chan-Zuckerberg Initiative, through which this was given, is not a not-for-profit charitable foundation, but an LLC, a limited liability company. This legal status has significant practical implications, especially when it comes to tax. As a company, the initiative can do much more than charitable activity. Its legal status gives it the right to invest in other companies and to make political donations. Effectively, the company does not restrict Zuckerberg's decision-making as to what he wants to do with his money. Really, all that happened is some money went from ear to ear. It didn't go anywhere else.
Details on the new foundation haven't been released.
Let's not bog this down in details. This is an happy occasion. Max is a baby. Max don't want details about our LLC and how ultimately what we're doing is moving the money over there, then there, then there, then there. In fact, Max would probably be quite grateful.
Talk about a baby present.
So that's Zuckerberg. What he could have written, if he was going to be more accurate, is I'm going to set up a limited liability company, Max, and we're going to move a lot of the assets into that, some of which will be used for commercial purposes. I was like, look, are you still reading this, Max? What do you mean you want to rush? Get to bed!
America the Charitable. There are a number of billionaires in this country, but of these, who is the most philanthropic?
Now, again, in the spirit of not billionaire bullying, but just billionaire observation, Bill Gates, who the first syllable of his name is the same first syllable of the word billionaire. Coincidence?
Bill Gates ranks second for giving since they created their foundation in 1994.
He launched his foundation in 94 after the Microsoft antitrust case. Is that to do with that little paperclip guy? That paperclip? I never trusted him when he used to pop up. Hey, why don't you try opening a document? Gates has invested $36 billion into this foundation he set up in 94, which has a value of $46 billion. And him and his wife exercise total control over it. The foundation has given away $23 billion in charitable grants. These gifts include billions in tax-deductible donations to companies in which Gates is invested, like Merck, GlaxoSmithKline, Novartis, and Sanofi. If someone says I'm making a charitable donation and it's to GlaxoSmithKline, I'm going to think, well, hold a minute, ain't that a big, massive company? That's what's interesting about this, is it places the power in the hands of the already powerful and diminishes the power of, for example, the state to impose wealth distribution. There's a lot of talk now about breaking up these monopolies, and it seems that this is a necessity because as long as they have the power they do, you can't rely on them to make decisions that are going to do anything other than stay in alignment with their raison d'etre, the accumulation of profit, service of their shareholders. In fact, the jokes I was making about billionaire bullying, they're just, as far as I'm concerned, human beings like you or me. They're born, they're going to die. But the systems within which they operate advantage particular mindsets and behaviours, and unless they fundamentally alter, which they will not do if the most powerful people benefit from them and staying the same, then you're going to perpetuate these systems. The balance tipped in the year 2000 when the Institute for Policy Studies in the US reported that of the 100 largest economies in the world, 51 were corporations and 49 were national economies. So now we live in a world where even though the nation might be the primary way that you understand geography and you understand politics, from an economic perspective, that is an inaccurate perception. You are literally living in an illusion because 51 of the most powerful economic entities are corporations. What are the implications, therefore, in the kind of laws that we're going to see around economics, taxation? National taxation models are no longer going to be sufficient when 51 of the most powerful economic entities transcend national boundaries, where their interests transcend national interests. So we have to start recognizing now that the logo of a brand like Facebook or Amazon or Microsoft is a kind of flag. They have planted their flag in the territory of the earth, and whether you believe in it or not, you salute to it every time you put your hand in your pocket.
You know, after I had given my short speech, the response in the room, from the audience was quite aggressive, and no one really came up to me to say, hey, that was a good speech. So, I went home with a bit of a bad feeling, to be honest.
When you look at Davos and who attends it, it's clear to see the balance of world power shifting. CEOs and the heads of recognizable corporations are at least as significant as the political figures that also attend. So we can see at this event how there is collaboration and cooperation, there's another C word for that, is taking place at Davos, and also how the balance of power is shifting.
The T word is really the forbidden word in places like Davos. You can talk about anything, about education, about feminism, about climate change, as long as you don't talk about higher taxes on the rich.
That can't be a coincidence, can it? It's because, and Adam Curtis is big on this, and if you watch Our Under the Skin with him, you'll see him talk about it, that nations, as yet, do still have the power to control corporations. They can pass anti-monopolization legislation. They can pass legislature for higher taxation. I ain't talking about taxation on normal bods or even people that are well off. I'm talking about super powerful corporations. Like, for example, in 2008, when at the stroke of a pen, Barack Obama wrote off through quantitative easing the financial mismanagement and corruption of Wall Street. That was a government that did that. That is the kind of power governments have. It's not they don't have the power, it's that they won't use it.
The Gates have already committed to giving 95% of their wealth away. Warren Buffett, 99%.
What do they mean by that? Are they actually going to do it? Do you think they're actually going to go, right, I had 100 quid, now I've got a quid. The rest of it I've given away. No, it's going to be this skullduggery, isn't it? We moved the 99 quid there, then we moved it there, then we moved it back here. I still got it!
They say that kind of extreme giving is needed because the rich have been getting so much richer. Tech innovations and rising global markets have produced vast fortunes not seen since the Industrial Revolution.
There's this terrible problem with capitalism. These elites have risen to the top, creating these sort of uber powerful figures that have got much more money than everyone else combined. Who should we turn to create a solution for it? Them? No! Not them. We've seen what they do already.
The $45 billion giveaway was applauded by some big names. Melinda Gates wrote to Max Zuckerberg, "You are lucky to have such an amazing mom and dad."
You can't have Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and all these people in charge of wealth distribution. They're experts in wealth accumulation. If you want some advice on wealth accumulation, they're the people to go to. But if it's wealth distribution, you've got to go to someone with a little bit more objectivity, I would say.
What conditions are there? I mean, can they say, yes, I'm with you, I'm here, but I want to give it to this institution or that institution?
What institution we give it to? No.
Yeah, in fact, we're not endorsing any flavor of philanthropy. We celebrate the diversity of philanthropy.
The American dream is anyone can make it. The problem with a myth like that is, one, it ain't true, not anyone can make it, and two, it suggests that if you aren't a billionaire, it's somehow your fault, and that it's laudable and admirable to accrue obscene wealth. You can't really, though, call a nation a society when the three richest people have as much money as the 50% of the poorest people. That's no longer a society. There's no longer a relationship between them. You may as well accept the truth that some of us are under this flag, the flag of corporation and the transnational globalist privilege that it represents, and others are under this flag, a tattered, battered, decaying rag that stands for nothing but inequality and exploitation.
One panel hidden away in the media center that was actually about tax avoidance. I mean, it feels like I'm at a firefighters conference and no one's allowed to speak about water.
I suppose then, if the point of Davos is to come up with solutions, one of the things they might consider discussing next time is the breakup of monopolies and the taxation of the extreme wealthy, and placing that power in the hands of nations, states, governments, better yet, ordinary people, rather than in the hands of the people that are set to gain most from things staying the same.